Sweet. It's already ready to go. Got it. It's being live streamed. Hello. Welcome, world. If you can see me, yeah, please feel free to put in the chat. Yes, I see you. Yes, I hear you. I'm assuming this is working right now. So I got this really cool feature I worked on for everybody yesterday. Since this is all like new, trying to get this all set up because I want to be able to give you the best that's available, make sure that this is something that helps you out as well as everybody else in the community. So, we all got to learn. We all got to overcome some of our problems and like some of the noises. Beep, beep, beep. I don't know if you hear that, but that drives me nuts. It's still going on today. So, brain's a little tight over here. I might have done a little too much reading, which is one of my triggers. So, still, we're in a great space to help you. So, you got to understand, like, you got to know, like, you're setting yourself up for success or you're setting yourself up for failure based on a lot of the activities that you're doing in the day. And sometimes you just got to know what it is that's worth doing. So I know I'm a little early right now. We're going to get started here in a bit. Uh, I want to do the video portion of this right. I'm going to edit this out. But right now, this is live. You're live with me, Alma Wayne Myers, the photosensitive, drug-resistant epilepsy warrior that is here to help you figure out how to manage your epilepsy, how to know your triggers, how to make the most out of your day, to make the best out of every moment that you're having. So, cool feature I found here that this restream that I'm doing, trying to broadcast everywhere, is allows us all to chat, like whether we are on Facebook, whether we are on YouTube, if you're in the chat room on Discord, you're in the Zoom room, this should be able to let you have a lot more going on. Super, super cool. I think it'd be nice to be able to talk to each other. I want to be able to talk to you while you're on Facebook. I want to be able to talk to you while you're on Yahoo. I mean, YouTube, woohoo, words, they are. You mess up sometimes. You call something they're not, happens. It's part of the brain, right? So, YouTube, if you're on Zoom, I actually might even set this up on a website so that it can be streamed from the website and still have the same chat functions. That would be cool, right? So that's what I've been working on. Just wanted to share with you. Like, this is, appreciate you putting in the time and effort to be here. That was not the link I was trying to copy for Facebook. So Facebook has to have this special, like, little ordeal that lets people um, join the chat. That way I could see who you are, make sure I understand, like, who's talking to me, how to best resolve your issue or problem. So right now, let's see, I didn't copyright HTTPS. Just gonna do that. Maybe that'll work. Oh, that's too bad. So there's a link going on here in the Facebook. I didn't like clean it up. It's just super fugly. Apologize for not cleaning it up, making it pretty, but you get. I just want to speed this process along, so I'll do a better version of posting this. Like, make sure you add restream to your thing so you can be a part of this even better, man, even better. So, all right, super super cool. Looks like Facebook is going. Pretty sure YouTube, Twitter, and I got this going out like to help everybody. Good times. So, does I still got a notification about 4 minutes or something? No, promote your website. No, go back to where I was. Yes, now I got the chat box. So, all right, invited everybody. A couple more minutes. Just, and I said it was going to start at 12 o'clock my time, whatever clock your time it is. I'm going to start on the hour because, you're going to give everybody a chance to like jump in. This should have given everybody a notification. If you were subscribed to one of the channels, in one of the chat rooms or something. So working on learning this system down to make it easier for you because, being here live is, I think it's a way more fun experience personally over the last several years since, at home learning has become like this one of the more standards. Like people are working from home more, people are learning more. You can help so many more people. You can talk to more people. You can get your message out there. It doesn't matter what your job is, like there's a way to reach a lot more people because social media, the internet has just brought us all together. These amazing like video conferencing, like in Zoom rooms, being able to hold thousands of people. I mean, some of Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi's stuff just gets like near 1 million people like in their challenges, and it's just unreal like what we can do with technology. So I'm super excited that technology's gotten like this, that I could actually help people out, kind of overcome my photosensitivity, um, and then work on the whole reading epilepsy thing. So I know my right eye is like worse than my left. It's part of like when I had my brain infection and this mild stroke, some hemorrhagic stroke or something like that. I don't know. I know how it felt. I didn't go to the doctors and dealt with it all. The doctors weren't really helping me with stuff. So that's kind of on topic today. So it looks like we're at the 12 o'clock of the hour. We'll say hi there. I'm still I'm Wayne Myers, and this is day 3 of the 5-day Know Your Triggers Epilepsy Warrior Challenge. Because we all know it's a challenge, like living with epilepsy. And sometimes you got to go through challenges to be able to find the next best version of yourself, even if you don't want to. Like this isn't an adventure that most of us set out on. Like I've said before, this isn't a dream vacation. We're not like, man, best thing ever. And most of us don't really think that about epilepsy. But some of us like get to the point where we're like, forgot what it's like, but not really. And I don't know that I'll ever forget what it's like to have a seizure. Those are pretty scary. And I'll be 2 years in August, so I know this is possible for you and some other people. A lot of people, especially one third of us that are drug resistant, need to at least do everything that we can to make the best out of the day. I can't guarantee that like you don't have something going on with you that needs some like serious attention, but I guarantee you like this will get you the best result out of everything that you do. I mean, you go to the doctors, they keep records of like everything that you do, right? They're like, all right, you come in, they document your medications, they document like what's your chief complaint, like they document this stuff, that way they know, like you look back at it and you're just like, oh, well, last time you were doing like with this, how's that going? You want to know, you want to keep a record. You're keeping a record for yourself. It's so much easier to be able to share that with the people that are important to you. So it's really super huge importance to make sure you're documenting everything every day, just so you can see the differences and so you understand. Like you understand it's a roller coaster. I tell everybody I think it feels like it's a roller coaster and a corkscrew at the same time. So you're swirling and going up and down, and it's chaos, it's turmoil, it's misery. I call it epilepsy hell because if you've got epilepsy, you know how hellacious it can be. And sometimes it's the people in our lives can make or break what's going on with us. They can add to the triggers that we experience, they can take away from the triggers that we experience, but we can't really demand people to do what we want. That's not a healthy relationship. You probably find yourself in many other relationships where it's a demand relationship. Like you have to do this or else I will punish you. Like, bad relationships are like, if you don't do what I want, I won't have sex with you tonight. Like that's not really supposed to be related to each other. But some people use things like that, like as a tool to manipulate you. So you have to realize like manipulation, is not a healthy situation. You don't want to be manipulated. You don't need to manipulate other people. Honestly, being a heart-centered person helps out with your relationships across the board. Having a more compassionate approach, it starts off with yourself, the relationship you have with yourself. Like once you got a better understanding, you're like, okay, I'm okay. This sucks. And it's okay to not be okay, but gonna get through this. Just gotta remind yourself, like other people are doing this, like you could do this too. So you just gotta remind yourself, like go through the steps, you go through the process. If you're having trouble trusting yourself, trust that I had faith in you. I trust that you can do this. And if I was seeing patients again, I would start them off right here. I'd be like, all right, this is what we need to start here. That way you can bring me the evidence of like what's going on. Let me know, give me the best scenarios, give me the opportunity to help take things apart. Same thing you should be doing with a really good doctor, whether it's like your primary healthcare provider that is really good at collecting all the information, or maybe it's just your epidemiologist, they're like the epilepsy specialists that are just super on point about like all the different struggles that many of us have because they've studied it a lot more deeper than just a neurologist. Neurology has a lot of diseases, that falls into that realm. Epilepsy is only the third to fifth largest neurological disorder in the world, depending upon what part of the world you're in. Like I mentioned before, 1 in 50 people in England, but 1 in 26 here in America and Canada and like many other countries. Um, and sometimes that's related to like what we're doing to ourselves or what's being done to the things that we're doing to ourselves. So we got to really watch that. And then it turns into finding the right people, looking out for the wrong people, protecting yourself, making sure that you're not demanding anything. Like you really need to be working with people. You get so much more done as a team. I love this phrase. It's like the I in team is hidden in the a-hole. So, I mean, you ever looked at capital A, you'll see what I'm talking about. It looks kind of like that, right? So the I in team is hidden in the a-hole. So don't be letting the a-holes like mess up your team. Don't be letting the a-holes mess up your team. Like seriously, make sure you've got your team, your people, your support group. Like I mentioned yesterday, I had a guy, like I'd have a seizure and he didn't care I was on the floor or not. He totally just kick me and carry on with this day. Like, these are not the kind of people you want to have around with you. I try to talk to him about the other problems in the house, things that were supposed to be his responsibility. And like, he couldn't handle it from me, but, he had to hear it from my girlfriend because she was a lot nicer about it. She just wanted to be liked. So she had a hard time, like, really being firm with anybody other than me. It's like relationships. You have to know, like, if you got a boyfriend and girlfriend, like, some of them are awesome. Some of them are not so awesome. They say the road to hell is paved with the good intentions. And like, truly, like, there's a lot of people that want to be able to help you, but they don't know how. There's some people that want to be able to help you, but they're too busy freaking out. I'm telling you, it's been like one of the hardest things I've ever had to deal with is having a seizure and trying to calm my partner down. Like whatever woman I was with, like just having to get them to like be okay with the fact that I'm not okay. I feel really bad for the woman I was with when this all started. Like she didn't know how to like handle this. She jumped on my lap, which I didn't like being touched. So I was gonna have like another seizure again, like if she kept touching me. Um, and she'd take a shower and like hearing the shower going was like triggering me. She had to have the window open at night. So having the window open at night, not only did it make it cold, but the breeze was hitting the back of my neck and I'd have a seizure at night. And I tried talking to her about stuff. Like eventually, like I had to get rid of her. She wasn't willing to pull her weight and she was making it harder. And then she helped me move into my dad's when I couldn't pay my rent anymore, which was super awesome because I'm telling you, like, I know she loved me. It didn't love her any less. It just situation needed uh, boundaries that were being respected. It's just I'd see her for once a month. She'd come over like literally like every 30 days. It'd take me that long to finally feel okay. Be like, hey, baby, come on over and like I'd be destroyed by the time she left. It got to the point where I finally figured out. I was like, look, I need you to leave after 4 hours. You can leave at 4 hours and you can come over more and we can do this more, but I need to build up. Like 8 hours is too much. I'm just it just was ruining what was going on with me, but she didn't want to hear it. She was always like there. It was nice, great hanging out with her, but I really needed for me to be able to have these boundaries respected by her. And you're gonna find these situations where people are, you know, they want what they want and they're gonna push on your boundaries unless they're like super supportive and they're on board with what you're doing. Just why it's so important to be able to communicate as effectively as you possibly can. So I talked about, I don't know if I quite mentioned it, I have reading epilepsy, but the term's actually communication epilepsy. It's a very rare epilepsy according to everything that I've done the research on it. In fact, I had to teach my neurologists about like what's going on with me. They didn't figure it out for me. I did all the research and like, hey, look, this describes exactly what I'm going through. And I would like print it out and I'd give it to them. And I would tell you almost all the doctors that I gave that information to, like, ignored it and were like, I want you to tell me what's going on. I'm like, it's right there. So much easier if you would just read this than make me try to remember it and tell you all about it. You want me to read the paper to you? I will. But like, if you would just read that paper, because I could give myself a seizure trying to read that paper to them. Like, why won't they just read the paper I give them? But and some people can only do things the way that they can do. So it's really hard. Like have a relationship. Like I was trying to, get him to cooperate with me by reading the paper, and like the only way he was willing to do things by making me like use my words, instead of respecting the fact that it took me so much time and so many seizures I gave myself trying to read through this information to be able to provide them with the most specific account of like what's going on with me when I was having trouble documenting it. And it was really, really hard for me to document. It was like, even, man, seriously, I went to the school that I graduated from like last month. And I mean, I used to be student council president. I was the chairman the year before on student council. I was doing political liaison like my senior year of this 4-year college. Um, so I was like kind of heavily invested. I worked in the clinic for a little bit. I loved a lot of the teachers still there. A lot of supervisors are still there. So I got to say hi to one of my favorite supervisors, but I stuck my head in the door, like where the students and interns and teachers and everybody are at, and somebody like started to harass me about it. But we'll get back to that real quick. Just telling you, relationships are hard. You have these demand relationships you just find everywhere. So I get to the clinic and I find out like everything's changed since COVID. The library upstairs only open like twice a week. They don't carry acupuncture needles anymore. I was there for an herbal formula that was going to help boost my adrenals because I've been having some adrenal fatigue for a while. And so they tell me like things have changed, and like I just drove up from Mexico and probably been driving for like 4 hours, 5 hours already at this point, and I need a break. So I'm like, hey, I just want this formula, and they're like, oh, well, you have to email our pharmacy, which is literally like 20 feet away from me. Got to email this place, and then they'll make the order, but they won't do it without emailing it. I'm like, I have seizures reading and writing. Yeah, I know, but just email it. I'm like, but you're really telling me I need to email this to the people back there, even though I have seizures reading and writing, and I'm coming to you for help to be able to contact them back there. Yes, that's what I'm saying. So of course I took a deep breath because it's so much better than yelling, but it's stressful. People could help, but they won't. And you can't demand them like you have to do this. You just gotta find a way to work around. So it took me a few times. Like honestly, I type in a little bit. It might have just been the email address, and then I took a break. And I typed in my hey subject line, 100 grams of this formula, and took a break. And then I typed in another message. I don't remember what it was anymore. And I sent it, and then I took a break, and I went. That was when I went back to. I went upstairs for a bit. They told me, I was talking to the front desk lady. She's super awesome, and I went back down, and they told me I couldn't have the formula because my license is it's inactive is the correct term. It is inactive. Means it's on hold because I developed epilepsy and I had trouble doing the 50 CEUs that are required, continued education units required like every 2 years. So that's like 25 years of required like continued education, 25 hours every year. So 50 hours of continued education that I need to be able to get my license active. That's fine with me, but they wouldn't give me it because my license wasn't active. They were telling me it was, they weren't saying inactive. They were saying it was something else. I don't remember, but whatever. I don't care. Um, they were mean about it. And I was like, I could have just gone back there and talked to the teacher I just gave a hug to. They're like, hey, can you just get this formula and make sure that I can have it? Will you sign off on it for me, please, pretty please? Because it was literally just cinnamon bark and a few other herbs. Like seriously, nothing major. It's not like I was after heroin or cocaine or like some major pain medicine. It was like literally cinnamon bark. So being harassed by this other lady because I stuck my head in there, and like she won't like quit. She's like keeps coming up on me and like every trying to talk to someone else, and she's like the only person that she will only like continue like being up in my face talking to me. And I started having a panic attack and start freaking out. I'm like, I'm just here for help, and you have all these people that are like mean, but I can't demand anything out of them. But I'm just like, I don't understand. Like, I'm here for help. And you guys are like just being mean. Like, what the hell is your guys' problem? That's like I probably said it a little differently than that, but I'm like in the middle of like trying not to have a panic attack because like I'm asking for help and people are like dicks. So you're gonna find this like still like even with the AutoZone. So for me, and I'm asking for help, and just like I need these brakes for my car. And the guy's like, "Oh, I don't see like they're not in your telephone numbers." I was like, "I don't care. I need the brakes for my car." And he just kept going on and on and on and on about how my previous purchase of the brakes he couldn't find. I'm like, "I don't care. I just want the brakes." It was really starting to get stressful after like the 10th time of him telling me like he couldn't find the number, and I'm just like, "Just let me have the brakes, please." So you find people like you just got to take a moment, step back, take a breath. If you're like freaking out, step out of the situation. You're like going to trigger fight or flight. You can be triggered a seizure just because, you're getting into panic mode. Like things aren't going the way you want to. People aren't cooperating with you. They ain't giving you the help that you want to. The best thing you could do is stay away from these people. When I first ran away from LA, like trying to get help, because the people that I was trying to get help from, most of them like were bullies. I had an acupuncturist that was really nice, but driving to his office and driving back, like, was not very good for my brain. Like, I had a great treatment, and then I have like one of those focal aware seizures that just kind of felt like it knocked back like 60% of it. It just could have been so much more effective if somebody just came over to my house, like the acupuncture business I used to have girlfriend I used to date. I'm like, please, somebody just give me acupuncture, but nobody wanted to help unless I could get to their office. I had people offer like, yeah, come to my office, I'll give you a hand. And I appreciated that. But with epilepsy, the way that it was, like, we're not allowed to be driving. So I did what I could, and I kept my distances to like 3 or 5 miles or under. I never drove further than that. It was like basically the grocery store and home. Minor little things like if I needed to. Doctors visit, like sometimes in LA, those were the really harder ones. Um, hanging out with a friend like once in a while, and I'd always have to go drive over to their place. I wouldn't come hang out with me. So then like have a nice time hanging out, and then basically have a seizure on the drive home, like where I was able to like not black out, but I felt horrible for like weeks. It's like I just wanted, I wanted to be able to not just sit alone by myself. I wanted these healthy, better relationships. And sometimes being alone is like the best relationship like you could have for a little bit. But at some point, you got to interact with people. You need people to help you out, because this is the R part. Like when we were talking about the meds RX yesterday, you've got your meditation, you got your exercise, diets and your sleep patterns. And these are things you can be doing with other people. Like if you're sleeping in bed with somebody and have a seizure just because you're in bed with them, like they touch you or something, or it gets too hot or it gets too cold, while you're in bed with them, like you could be doing all kinds of activities with other people. Like exercise could be a lot more fun with other people. And it's a lot easier to stay on track and help each other out, like having a battle buddy, having a partner. That's we call it in the army. You got a battle buddy. Usually, like you pair up with like at least one person, and you guys just are tight. Whenever you guys are going to be in the foxhole, you're going to be in the foxhole together. You got each other's sixes. Which means covering each other's butts. So but that's how it is. Like as an epilepsy warrior, we need somebody covering our six. But at the same time, it helps be able to cover everybody else's six too. But if somebody is just throwing you, you're going to be their cannon fodder. They're expecting you to get in the way of the bullet and take one for you. They're not really part of the team that comes into the hole. Like the I in team is hidden in the a-hole part. So you got to make sure you're building a team of people around you, friends. I've had to get rid of a bunch of friends. It's horrible. It sucks. I've known these people since junior high, ninth grade. Some of them, since I was like 21. Some of them, just along over the years. Like some people I lost contact with just because it's hard to communicate. Other people, and I'm sure you've gone through the same thing. Like I remember I've watched like all these people when they first when I was able to see posts more. I wasn't trying to help people as much, but I was watching more. But all these people like are just freaking out. Like nobody wants to hang out with you when you first develop epilepsy. I remember all my friends were gone. Like I had one of my best friends who'd come down and see me once in a while, and he was always just like, "Man, it's so hard to see you this way." But I was so grateful that he was willing to still hang out with me because there wasn't that many people that were willing to like come like hang out and just try to make the experience more fun. Like sometimes you just want somebody to hang out with. You don't even need like anything crazy going on. You don't always it's just relationships are good. They're a healthy part of being a human being. It's okay to want a boyfriend or a girlfriend. Heard some people ask the question, when do I tell this person that I want to date that I have epilepsy? It's like they want to keep it secret from everybody. And then it becomes this like jack in the box surprise that like people aren't prepared for. They're just like they're hanging out with you, having a good time, and next thing you know, you have a seizure and they're traumatized. And they're traumatized. They're not prepared for this. You didn't say, hey, look, this is what's going on. People need to know. If you're going to go on a date with somebody, the best thing you can do is start off your relationship with honesty. Honesty is the best policy. Like, seriously, you don't want somebody who's going to abuse you. You don't want to get emotionally invested in somebody who's just going to leave you because they're not mentally or emotionally prepared for dealing with your struggle. And you can't hate them for it. I mean, most of us aren't mentally or emotionally prepared for dealing with our struggles either. Uh, we have these our professionals, we have our family members, we have our friends, we have all these people that want us to be able to do more. And sometimes they expect us to do more than we're able. Some people, sometimes they just label us and say, okay, well, since you can't do this, that means you can't do all of that. And so you miss out on other opportunities of like hanging out with them or being involved with events that you would actually really thrive in and enjoy. But this is part of just having communication with people and trying not to be angry about it and just be like understanding as much as you can. You have to be accepting of yourself. You have to be accepting of these other people that are in your life. So just be like, what, people are trying. They really are. And lots of people have their own problems that are pretty hellacious, or they're at least hellacious to them because they weren't given the proper tools, proper coping mechanisms, the proper methods to be able to make the most out of their life, to be able to have super healthy relationships, that support the whole process. I get, I've had seizures from, my girlfriend stressing out. You feel the stress, seizures from being yelled at, had seizures from all kinds of stuff like that people will do. Like I've asked for help and I've had people like yell at me because I'm asking for help. I've been told by people that I'm asking for help wrong. Maybe you've experienced this too, like that help is, out of the picture for you. It's just not part of the world because you got so many people that have just bullied you and beat you down. And now you don't even have hope for the future or hope for a good relationship. Just going to be alone for the rest of my life. And this happens to people without epilepsy. They just, relationships are hard. So honestly, the best thing you can do, but I keep saying the word honesty, be truthful, speak your truth. That's part of like having epilepsy is you got to be able to use your voice. You got to be able to communicate effectively. And you notice sometimes I slow my speech down and I start to enunciate my words because I know that I might slur if I don't, and you might not understand what I'm trying to say. I even told my doctor the last time I went and saw my new doctor. It's like I'm going to slow down and enunciate. It helps me actually focus my thoughts because I have communication epilepsy, and it can get hard trying to talk or trying to listen for too long, which can give me a seizure. Um, like dude got out of jail, was taking care of his grandfather. Like he would sit there and just go on and on for like 3 hours plus. Like I felt like I never got an edge in, like ever. Was just, he needed to be able to express himself, and it didn't matter like how it affected me. Any attempt I made to like talk to him about stuff, and he just got upset with me, and at some point threw me out of the house. I was paying rent. He threatened to kick my ass and throw me out on the streets like he did his wife, which was part of what got him arrested and in jail for, so long. Was beating his wife. I actually stopped him from killing his wife because he was stomping on her head one day. Like, seriously, stay off drugs. Don't hang out with drug addicts. If you're having problems with drugs and you want to get off drugs, like stop hanging out with those people. Like I keep telling you, relationships are super important. If you're hanging out with people and they're like taking you places and you're having seizures and they're not there helping you, stop hanging out with them. They're the wrong people. You might be lonely for a little bit because you're not getting the attention you want, but I promise you it's so much better to get quality care, quality people, quality connections. There's a lot of people out there. They want to be your friend. I want to be your friend. I want us to all hang out and be a big giant family. Like we're all part of the epilepsy warrior tribe. But not everybody's on the same unit. Not everybody's in the same company or battalion or brigade or division or whatever. You know, it's how it is. Like we're all a little bit divided. There's a little bit of competition, and it really shouldn't be that way unless it's like that healthy competition of like trying to push each other, support each other to excel to get to the next point. So, you know, you don't want to make sure you're documenting like how you feel like after conversations with some people. Like some people you realize that are just a super energy drain. Some doctors you realize they reach the extent of their knowledge and skill set. Doesn't make them a bad person. I have limitations to my own knowledge and skill sets as well. I'm sure you do. And if you know everything, congratulations. I mean, teach me how, great one. But I mean, nobody knows everything. The older I get, the more I know. I don't know anything. There's so much out there to know. My father has got a degree in particle astrophysics. I can't even like, I'd love to have a conversation with him about that, but a lot of that is surrounded by math, and I just don't have the right math to be able to have a proper conversation with him about that. That's why it's important to be able to communicate with people effectively. I have this friend, like, here, she was fighting with her boyfriend until she finally got rid of him. But it was seriously challenging. Like, watching their relationships, and she just couldn't function, and she doesn't have epilepsy, but she just having the hardest time functioning because of this abusive relationship she's in. And so I know it's even worse for those of us with epilepsy who's got these brain misfires that are constantly going on, and stress is like a not helping out. Your body gets into stress, you got inflammation, knots, tightness, spine out of shape, twisted, all broken feeling, all these things could like lead to you feeling like a seizure. But so can your interactions with the other people. So that's why it's important to know Like, are these people safe? Do they know that you could possibly have a seizure? And if you do, what are they supposed to do? It's important to have clarity with yourself. It's important to have clarity with the people around you. Like me, I always tell everybody, like, if I have a seizure, leave me alone. I will pick myself up off the floor. I know this about me. I've done it long enough. Like, I'll be fine. The doctors can't help me. The drugs haven't been working. I just got to go through this until I figure out how to make it quit. So that house was actually what was a really hard problem for me. We'll talk more about that one tomorrow, about environment. Today, we're just talking about people, relationships, healthy relationships, horrible relationships, abusive relationships. I grew up with narcissistic parents, so I also grew up getting my ass beat. So I was hit by people that were full grown, and so when I moved a lot and had a lot of bullies, like each new place came with a new set of bullies. I always felt bad for the bullies because they probably didn't have their asses beat the way I did. So when they hit, I couldn't feel nothing. It was like a joke to me. So conditioning, it's a huge part in like the things that we do. If you learn to take a hit, you can take a hit. You learn to fall, like judo. Judo is something that you're going to be able to do, and it teaches you to fall. So there's a lot of stuff that I do, like when I can consciously fall. A lot of stuff I've done because I practice, like it turns into body memory that it's reflex. I ride my skateboard down the road, and if I fall off, I usually roll up onto my feet. The only time I haven't, I rolled into a flat roll, which wasn't as comfortable. But I mean, sometimes going flat is a whole lot easier than going crazy sideways. And not wearing a helmet is stupid. And I can tell you I'm the smartest person in the world. I'm a human being. To be a thrill seeker, I had thrill seeker friends. Like we did crazy stuff. You know, you probably have too. I mean, you're either young or you're old. The more life experiences you have, the more you interact with people and places and things. Like you realize that everybody's essentially the same. We have base desires and wants, but on the same time, we're all very different with how we go about doing that. Like whether we're doing it for ourselves, whether we're doing it for our family, our community, for the world, for the universe. And the Buddhists, they have this whole thing. I enjoy the whole premise of allow me to attain enlightenment for the benefit of myself and all sentient beings, which is basically let me be the most compassionate and wise being that I can. Let me speak from a place from my heart. Let me have this deep, deep wisdom and understanding of everything that I can, and not so I can just be like, well, I know this and you don't. I mean that's like knowledge. Knowledge people protect knowledge, but wisdom is shared, which is why I'm sharing this with you because we're here together. This is like the right thing to do. Take care of yourself, do the best you can, talk to people that are helping you out, make these relationships better, get rid of the ones that aren't working, even if it's a parent, even if it's a brother, a sister, best friend. It sucks, sucks, sucks when you have to do it, but it's worth it. In the long run, it allows you to function on a whole much better level. It allows you to get out of this hypervigilance where you're just like waiting for the next shoe to drop, the next problem. You know, it's unreal. And you have people that you're trying to help, and they'll turn around and they'll take advantage of you. They'll abuse you. They'll make you feel horrible. And you'll have a seizure just because like you're in this situation. Situational seizures. Some people refer to other stuff. You have some psychogenic seizures where it's like you can't find any real cause. There's no brain activity going on, but like you get stressed out and you have a seizure. I've actually got a friend, one I mentioned earlier, like she's thought about giving herself a seizure and had a seizure. She doesn't have epilepsy. And I know like people can do this, like what the things you think about, you can do this to yourself too, but I really recommend not. Most of us like we don't want to have a seizure. I understand that. I don't want you to have a seizure either. But sometimes like we realize that our success is in the other side of working through the seizure or finding a way to stop before the seizure happens. I think is one of the best things you can do. This helps out with your resilience, with dealing with other people. Sometimes you gotta keep it short, make your conversations shorter. You might not realize just how, okay, so introverts versus extroverts. This is like a good concept to talk about right now. So introverts are the kind of people, I'm an introvert like me, that build up their energy by themselves. So I like to go by myself, my man cave, whatever you want to call it. I've been like this for a very long time. But part of it is just being beat and hyper vigilant and whatever. I need a man cave to be able to decompress. I gotta get away from people, and then I can come back and be the best version of myself. And I like to go out into public and I like to be happy and smiley. I go to the gas station, I go to the grocery store, whatever. I'm trying to be a happy guy because I like to be happy. And sometimes I get tired and I feel like I've got my own version of resting bitch face or whatever going on. I just don't look like, people get a little scared. Maybe, get a little more intimidating looking when you're just trying to make it through the day. Actually, when I came down from Sacramento when I was in the homeless shelter to help out same friend with her mom, there was actually one day where they were both like, you're too angry right now, and this energy you're giving off is too much for us. We need you to go away and stop being angry. And I'm like, that's awkward because I'm not angry. I am in pain because I was in Mexico. This is 2018, end of 2017, early 2018. I was in Mexico, had no marijuana, had some herbal medicine. I was stuck being vegan. I had meditation and Tai Chi, and that was it. And the people I was with, I was helping out. My friend, she was trying to spend every last minute she could with her mom because that was one of the deeper relationships that she had. And sometimes losing these relationships can be devastating, and it was for her. So, but I wasn't mad. I was angry. So it was. I mean, I wasn't angry. I was in pain. It was just the way the energy giving off. Like some people can make assumptions based on the look on your face. Like that's why people are like, oh, well, you look fine. There's nothing wrong with you. And you got to explain to them, like, oh, there really is. And I was trying to tell my doctor, like, I haven't had a seizure, in almost 2 years, but I should really be saying, like, I only have focal aware seizures for the last almost 2 years. Focal aware seizures means you're aware of like some of these misfires and things going on. Auras, an aura is a focal aware seizure. It could be it's a pre-seizure, like awareness thing, but they're still technically seizures, but you're just allowed to drive. You can get a lot more done with your day, but sometimes these auras can get to be overwhelming and back to back to back to back, and they can knock you in the dirt, knock you down, prevent you from being able to go to work, hang out with your coworkers, your bosses get upset with you. You can't hang out with your friends, your family, they get upset with you because I don't understand, unless they're supportive. And, again, you can't expect everybody to be on board with how hard your life is, but you do need to make up for your mind, like what kind of people you want around, what kind of future do you want to build, what's your tribe, what do you want out of your life? Like you don't want you don't want to be miserable, you don't want to be bullied, I'm sure. I mean, some people, I guess, they like abuse, it's Stockholm syndrome. It's a good example of people that enjoy that. But it's so much better to be in a relationship with somebody that is not going to tear you down to make themselves feel better, or they're not going to manipulate you so that you're not getting reciprocation out of the relationship. Just make sure that your relationships are building you up. The fame, the fire that's going on in your life. And if you need a moment to get away from them all, it's okay. It's totally okay to like get off social media for like ever if you really need to. But take a time, take a break for yourself. Like don't stress yourself out. There's a lot of stuff like you watch the news. And these are people that are trying to tell you like how horrible everything is in the world, and most things like get to seem pretty stressful. They want to make you angry and outraged, and this gets ratings. But they don't tell you most of the time about all the beautiful things that happen. They're just like, this is the worst event that we could find, and we think you're going to be upset. So if there's people like that in the world, they're just looking to make you upset, which again, only you can decide, like, hey, look, I don't want you to come over anymore. Change your number, block their number, whatever. You know, you got a relationship with a doctor that you like, keep your doctor. If you got a relationship with a doctor that you're having trouble communicating effectively with, it's okay to find a new doctor. There's people that get second and third opinions all the time. There's nothing wrong with disagreeing because we're all human beings. We all have our experiences. So your doctor's got their experiences, you've got your experiences. Hopefully you can have a doctor that you can communicate effectively with. But sometimes you're just going to have to do what's best for you. You might have to fire that doctor. You might have to just take care of yourself like you better, because you can't find a doctor in your area that is helpful or effective with whatever is going on with you. Science isn't perfect. It doesn't examine everything. It doesn't, you can't science a relationship. You can't science happiness. You can't science um, fulfillment in life. You can't science these things. There's art to them. It's an art. You can do blood work, you can do brain scans, you can do that kind of science, and they can only tell you so much. Spent a week inside the thing, like getting the EEG done on your head, the white leads going up, stuck in bed the whole time. And the people there were really nice. It wasn't like being at home where it was stressful. It was actually kind of a cloudy, dark day, so it wasn't super bright shining in the window, which would have made it so much worse. TV was small, it was kind of hard to see, so I'm like trying to play video games, but everything felt like a vacation for me. The people just made it so great. Like they fed me on time. I went to bed, like, I didn't smoke pot like the whole time. I wasn't allowed to do anything. They let me drink beer, and I tried getting drunk. I got drunk, but I couldn't have a seizure, even though that had been a trigger. But for some reason, being on vacation mode, being in a state of observation by other people can make the situation different than being by yourself. It's phenomena that's done like from quantum physics level. There's something called a quark. And if it goes through a tube with a whole two exits, if it's not observed, it goes through both exits. But it's observed, you can only see it go through one of the two tubes. So quarks, it's changed by the nature of seeing things. So the same thing like inside your like reality. If you don't know, everything is a sound wave that gets converted into a visual wave for you to be able to see. So they actually captured photos. They have photos of like the sound wave converting into a visual object, which is super, super amazing. That's why, importance to be able to have resonance, to be able to, work on yourself, to be able to love yourself, to be able to be happy with yourself and your situation. And then you're able to like broadcast this out to the people around you, help make them, feel better in their lives too. But if you're like angry on the inside and you're just like broadcasting anger out to everybody, or you're broadcasting your fear out to everybody, they're going to be picking up on that too, whether it's and usually it's not even conscious. They're just, we are energy beings. We share energy, we share thoughts and ideas. It's called osmosis. It's also the transference of thoughts and ideas from one person to the next. Diffusion is a concept of how you've got, if you've got a lot of salt and water and you want to do, less salty water, you add more water. You've got a gradient of like no water and salty water, and you got a tube to connect them. Like it will try to balance out. So the salt and the water have the same level of salt on both sides. So it's like a gradient thing. Like it just transfers from one cell wall to the next. So it's the same thing with like our thoughts and ideas and the peoples and the places and things in our lives. Like we feel these things on a cellular level. You know, we feel these things inside our organs. We feel them inside our blood vessels, inside our lungs. You know, you can feel these things. And this is what you need to be paying attention into, these like feelings that are going on with you, and especially with the people that are around you. You know, I understand needing help. You know, sometimes you got to find a way to do things without the people that promise you help because they keep letting you down. And it's not that they're bad people, it's just they want to help, but you know, they don't have the capacity to change their lifestyle to revolve around you or a problem other than like what they're already dealing with. Great thing, like you can get help from people. If you need groceries, there's a lot of places that will like deliver you groceries. Amazon delivers a lot of grocery stuff. Costco can deliver some grocery stuff. There's so much places you can, you know, get on Cliff Bar and order Cliff Bars directly from Cliff Bar. Like you don't have to go leave the house for a lot of stuff. You can just get it delivered to you. My favorite coffee is Pete's Coffee, and they deliver Pete's Coffee to you. So even here in Mexico, I can still get some Pete's Coffee delivered to me. So I usually go up and buy it when I'm on a trip, but it is what it is. But you know, I found like, you know, with my last relationship, I was in for a little over 5 years. In the beginning, like she wanted to fight with me about what was going on with me, and she didn't understand. And you know, we ended up working through that, and it went from being like a really, really hard situation to be in that was stressful. It was giving me seizures, like it wasn't helping. Like I was lonely in a relationship with a woman that was just mad at me and didn't have the experiences to like understand because this is completely new to her, and you know, whatever. And then the other stress of like what our expectations of taking care of this other man, where I wasn't getting paid, she was underpaid. They did a lot of not paying her. It took her, you know, after he died, it took them a year to like finish paying her back like what they owed her. um you know, so the relationship with her was like super awesome. She's been super supportive. Like once it got good and we worked through like who we were able to accept each other and stop having demands out of each other. We went to a family counselor thing, and that was like the worst thing. She still like feels bad. She still like resents like doing that. So going talking to other people doesn't always help, but talking to each other like always helps if you're with the right person. If you sometimes you need to change the way that you're talking to them, because that can be a big difference too. You know, I'd have to go out when I was living with my dad, and you know, the monitor sounds of waking up with the computer does this Windows noise, a din din kind of thing, and that would just give me a seizure. Like my attempts to communicate with him about disabling that sound, to him, I'm sure he heard, "You're giving me a seizure." Where I was trying to say, "Can you please disable that sound?" And it's quite possible he just didn't know how. I mean, I could have done it, but that doesn't mean it was difficult for me at the time because I was having trouble looking at the screens and stuff. But you know, to him, like to me, that was a simple request. Like, hey, you can disable that sound, and you know, my brain would like hurt a whole lot less. I'd have less recovery time. I might even be able to get better faster. Because yeah, you know, being constantly overstimulated, hypersensitive, hyperstimulated, all this stuff, a lot of that with epilepsy, we're have some level of being hyperstimulated, but you know, we also probably have some level of a deficiency that's going on top of an excess. You know, it's kind of a mixed pattern most of the time. We're not, you know, one or the other. Oftentimes, we're, you know, one leads to another. You know, it can be a vicious cycle. And with relationships, it can be too. You could both be like loving each other, but like say doing the worst things and saying the worst things at the moment because you're in fight or flight, you have a seizure. You know, it's nice to be able to have a partner that understands that after you have a seizure, you might be a little crazy, you might say things or do things, and not to freak out. But you know, it's like, hey, what do you do? Make sure you talk to them. Make sure you talk to everybody that's in your life because they are a potential trigger. And you can't expect expect them to change, but you can manage who you are around. I went to the restaurant like one time before I left LA. Nice little bar like in North Hollywood. Well, great food. I went there because I wanted the food. I have this really good brisket, and so good. It's like one of my favorite briskets in LA. Barbecue sauce or whatever they're doing with it, it's just super soft and delicious. The quality's nice. So I really wanted to go there because I love food. The good food I don't make myself. And at the time I was still drinking a little bit, so I got a beer that I like, probably an IPA. And there's a lady next to me, and her phone is just like going off like the whole time I'm sitting there. And I'm starting to have a hard time. And I'm like, "Hey, ma'am, I'm sorry. Hey, lady." I remember how I said it, but I was nice. I was like, "Hey, how you doing today? You mind like putting that on vibrate or something? I don't have to get out of the house very often, and it's nice to be able to get out. Um, I'd like to be able to continue eating my meal here. So it would be super cool if you just put that on vibrate. It's fine, right? Not mean at all. It's very polite. I stated like, hey, I want to be able to eat here. It's a little hard to listen to that. It'd be super cool. If you could just put on a vibrate. It was reasonable. So then there's this other lady. I remember reading her story online. She's like, you can't believe like some people are this way, but we get this way. I get it. But seriously, it's not the right way to be. So she's at the restaurant. She's photosensitive, and there's this other child at the restaurant that isn't hers that has those sneakers with the flashing lights on the back, like when they step. And she starts freaking out and trying to get the manager to throw the family out of the restaurant because the kids' shoes are flashing and she's photosensitive like I am. So she's demanding like this situation be 100% catered to her. The world has got to revolve around like her photosensitive. She's not responsible for it at all. It's like people have to cater to her. These are really hard people to deal with. You find them with epilepsy, you find them without epilepsy. These are some of the harder people to have a relationship with, where they're just like, nothing is going to be good enough. They've tried it all. You'll run into these people in your life that don't have epilepsy. They're not trying to help themselves. They're demanding other people to do everything for them. And they're just never happy with the results because they're out of control. They're not in control of what's going on with them. I mean, that lady could have just easily said, "Hey, can you get me in a spot, a seat, a table where I'm facing the wall so I don't see these lights?" I mean, that would have been way more compassionate, respectful of like the human beings around them. But that's how it should be. Like, we have relationships, we have to have respect for ourselves, we have to have respect for the people. And if we're rude or whatever, some people think like, if you fear me, like that's respect, and it's not respect. Some people like will fear you. They're gonna let you down, they're gonna stab you in the back. Like, this is never. You might temporarily get what you want out of the situation, but that's being a bully. That's the demand relationship part that I'm saying. Stay away from demand relationships. Even with yourself, like you need to be able to have frameworks. Like I was saying, the ADAPT framework, and we follow our meds frameworks, but you have to have these frameworks in your life that you're able to look back on. When you build a house, they frame the house first. They don't put the roof on and then the walls. There's an order, there's a process, and it's the same thing in your life. But sometimes, you got to wait for the inspector to come along, so the work doesn't get done as fast as you want. You got to take a moment. It's like how it was when I was going to go see the doctor. Like, sometimes it was a month, 3 months, like, or more before I could get back to see the doctor. You know, promise you, like, there are people out there that want to help you. There are people that want to be friends with you. You're worthy of a good friend. You're worthy of a good partner. They're sometimes just hard to find because there's just a lot of people out there that They don't know who they are. They don't really know what they want, and they're looking for somebody else to distract them from themselves. And I remember there was periods like that when I was younger. I hadn't worked on myself enough. I hadn't done enough, and I was really my value depended a lot more on the people around me. I still have like a few moments where the way that people treat me, I feel a little insignificant. But for the most part, like my self-worth is just based on like I know that just being alive that you are valuable. I know me being alive that I'm valuable. Life is precious. You know, our families, our relationships with people, they're precious. And sometimes they get tainted and they're really hard to maintain for sanity's sake. Sometimes you got to take a break, which is okay. There's this is about working on you and doing what you need to. You have a lot of people, they'll be like, they're scared for you. They're living in fear. They're going to put their fear on you and try to stop you from being the best version of yourself or from doing what is fun for you. You know, these are demand relationships. These are situations that are going to stress you out, make your life harder. You're going to have inflammation and you're going to have a seizure and you don't really know what's going on because there's no correlation really logically, and you're trapped in a emotional brain. Fight or flight really doesn't have logical side to it. You're just like, protect myself. So I don't want you like going to jail because you like fought somebody, fought the wrong person. And, sometimes I feel like I'd like to do that too, but I did take a Hippocratic oath. It says to do no harm. you know do no harm. Don't want to harm you, don't want to harm me. I don't harm anybody. Like, I don't want to be able to help you. I will help you find like healthy relationships, give you advice, give you, whatever it is, tools that you need to be able to succeed and having the best life you possibly can. Just relationships, right? All right. So started like 1 o'clock. That's really cool, right? So I think it's really cool. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys for watching, for hanging out, for making the best of this moment. And hopefully this has helped you understand like how relationships, can affect your triggers. And sometimes you need to be documenting this stuff. Like, realize it might take you a long time to remember or figure it out on your own if you're not documenting it, if you're not writing it down. You don't need to write a giant book. Just put a couple numbers down, some dates, how you feel, scale of 1 to 10, like, how long it take to recover, who you were talking to, who you're hanging out with, like, keep track of this. You could just, hey, I hung out with Bob today, and man, I was so tired afterwards, and try to write down why. Like, well, I didn't get enough sleep. Maybe it's just you didn't get enough sleep. It's all right. Bob's not a bad guy, but he just needs some sleep. But maybe you got enough sleep, but like Bob's one of those people that like doesn't respect boundaries. So, it's hard to get people to, to respect that you have requirements that are outside their realm of possibilities. It's really what it comes into. Like, nobody without epilepsy really has the realm of possibilities about what's going on with you. And if you can understand that, they can't save you, you are the only person on the planet that can make decisions about what you are going to do for yourself. Now, people can bully you and do things to you against your will, but that's different. You are responsible for how you can respond and react to these things, like, especially if you don't have a seizure. You gotta change your mindset, like what people mean to you, what you mean to you, what epilepsy means to you, your relationship with epilepsy has to kind of turn into this thing. Like, you don't have to say I love epilepsy. I mean, I would never ask you to do that. I mean, if you can, that's cool. Can honestly say that without epilepsy, I would not have the understanding of how to be able to facilitate help for you and other people around me and the rest of our community that have to go through this experience and so many others. And the more experiences I've had, the better, deeper understanding I have to the human condition. There's so much suffering. The people in your life are suffering. They're worried for you. They're scared. Sometimes they'll even get mad for you. That's like the worst, I think. It's like when you try to tell somebody about a problem you're having and then they're mad at that person for you. Um, where you're like, you can forgive them and you just needed to say something. Like sometimes you just need to be heard. Uh, That's why it's good to have the people that you can tell everything to and they're not gonna freak out, and then realize that some people you can only meet them where they're at. You can only meet another person as deeply as they have met themselves. It's just truth. Like in your relationships, you want a much more deeper, fulfilling relationship. You're going to want to find somebody who's deeper and looking for fulfillment in their life. Not just success. You want fulfillment out of your life. Success is great, but there's lots of people that can achieve goals and get results that they want, and then they're just not satisfied. You know, so I don't want you feeling like that about yourself, about taking care of yourself, about the people trying to help you. I want you to be able to find the relationships that you need that will help you manage your seizures, manage your triggers. And I also want you to be able to watch how you're talking to these people as fast as you can. Sometimes, you got to go back and say, hey, look, sorry, I was an epilepsy brain, and try to explain to them. Some people will understand. Some people are compassionate, they understand that this is hard on you. And other people are not. They're just gonna gaslight you. They're not necessarily a narcissist, but there's an awful lot of low intelligence, low emotional intelligence people out there that will destroy you if you let them. So hopefully this has been helpful for you in the whole process of knowing your triggers and about relationships. Build a better relationship, build boundaries, figure out what you want, what you need, figure out how to effectively communicate this in a way that you don't have a seizure. Okay, I was going to tell this other story real quick. My friend, she having an argument with her boyfriend. She's always fighting with her ex-boyfriend now. Um, she speaks English, and her Spanish is good but not great. So she wanted to feel, she wanted to express herself the way that she wanted to express herself. So she said it in English because it was exactly the words that she felt, but her boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, didn't speak this language. He didn't understand. So here she felt great because she got it off her chest, but she wasn't able to say it more simply so that he could understand. So there's a huge problem in communication breakdown. I just want to talk to you about this one real quick. Communication breakdown is a big, big, big deal. Sometimes it seems like you're talking different languages. There's a great book. It's Men Are from Mars, Women from Venus. So if you're having relationship issues, that's one of the books I recommend. You also, I think you have the Seven Love Languages is another great book. There's just some stuff out there that can help you like have healthier relationships. And always, 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 it starts with having a healthy relationship with yourself, being the light you want to see in the world. If you want it to be a happier place, sometimes you just got to make it a happier place. You know, you got to be the person. Sometimes it's putting out the olive branch, trying to overcome obstacles and challenges in your life. But, sometimes you also got to be the one that's shutting the door, closing the window, destroying the exit, like bombing the cave entrance so like nobody gets back. But you got to master you. You got to master your relationships. You got to master how people affect you mentally, emotionally, and physically. You know, there there's a lot of people that want to see you succeed. There's a lot of people that don't understand, and they never will. There's only 3.5% of us in the United States that are going to have epilepsy in their lifetime. It's not a lot of people. You know, about one in half, 175, yeah, like one and a half of us are drug resistant. 1%, 1%, somewhere in that range. Like, I mean, seriously, there's people, they're trying. They're trying to do the best that they can, just like you. I'm sure, you want to do the best you can. You might not have always had like the best approach or ideas on how to do something, or maybe you're like you've heard about something, but you just haven't dived deeper into it because you didn't know the right person to talk to you about it. So relationships, they can trigger you happy just as much as they can trigger you into a bad day. So I challenge you to work on your relationships. Think about, what it is that you want from people. And at the same time, like, how can you talk to people in a way where you don't just feel like you've expressed yourself, but you feel like you can be understood? And that right there, that will help out with your seizures amazingly. And, sometimes it's a little too hard to think, and I understand. Do your meditation, do some exercises, get as much rest as you need to, and then get back to it. And that's the best part about this whole process is like, it's you're documenting what you're doing when you take a break. When you have a seizure, maybe it's a little too hard to put a couple days in there. It's still there. You just get right back to it. Keep doing it. You can write hard days, you know, on your spot, and you don't even have to like get into it too deeply if you don't want to, if it's too hard. But the more information you put down, the better it is to be able to diagnose triggers, diagnose root causes of what's going on with epilepsy and your seizures, and just everything else that's going on, because epilepsy is so much more than just a seizure. It's part of our life, it's part of our relationships. So make sure that you are feeding yourself with the best relationships you possibly can. Oh, tomorrow, we're going to be talking day 4. All right. So this is a little more about environment. We're going to be talking about the world. I think when I got the FTW, some people think that means F the world, but it could mean fear the world. It also faith this works. So talk about that more tomorrow. Do you F the world? All right. So today's a homework assignment. I'm gonna try to put something together for you. Sorry, I didn't do yesterday's homework assignment. I was trying to work on this repurpose and got out of my brain a little too much. It was work, a lot of work. All right. So I want you to write about your relationship stuff. I'm gonna try to put something together about relationships and triggers. You can say, yes, this is a trigger for me. Yes, I have this kind of support group. No, I don't. Maybe I want this. Try to, you put this stuff down on paper. You document what you want. You document what's going on with you. It makes it a whole lot easier for you to refer back to. You're like, it's your starting point. So yesterday you should have been be able to start the whole process of, you got your time to meditate, you got time to exercise, you got your time to eat food, you got your time to sleep, all kind of put into your calendar. You can play around with it, find what works best for you. The goal is to be you, not me. You can't be me, I can't be you. We can be friends, we can hang out, like, but you got to do the work. I can't do it for you. I would love to. I would love to do the work for you and just make it all better, but it doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. So all I could do is say, hey, follow these steps. If you follow these steps and you just do this until you get better, like this will be a much faster process, than not documenting anything and just waiting to see what happens to you. Waiting to see who might come along and save you from yourself. Like, seriously, if you're waiting for somebody to save yourself, congratulations, it's you. You are the person, the relationship that you need. But you might need support, you might need friends, family, whatever. Just make sure you're working on healthy relationships, and it's okay to realize that you might not be in a healthy relationship and to do something about it. If you need help, if you're in abusive relationships, there's help out there to get out of. If you're looking for love in all the wrong places, it's very easy. I was once asked, you're a single guy, like you don't go to church, like where do you meet women? I'm like, just walk out the door. Half the population is women. It's amazing how it works. So sometimes you just gotta walk out the door. Sometimes you gotta wait. Sometimes you really gotta go looking, but just gotta make sure that it's the right person for you, that you're in the right place, because you might not be in the right place for a deep connection. Maybe you'll have seizures from having sex. Orgasms can be pretty intense. Maybe it's the after sex. Maybe it's excitement before sex. You just get a little antsy, anticipation, like all these things, like they can lead to a seizure. So, all right. Thanks for tuning in. It's been a wonderful time. I've had a great time with you today. Um, so yes, make sure you're working on you. Make sure you're talking to people, learning to communicate, learning to do it in a way that you're not demanding people bend or break in order for you to feel good when there are so many more things that you can do without stressing yourself out, without stressing out the people around you, without being stressed out by the people around you. So remember to take care of yourself like you matter, because you do. And we'll see you tomorrow for day 4 of the 5-day Know Your Triggers challenge. Real quick, you can still join VIP, get a copy of these recordings. They are available. You can go to knowyourtriggerschallenge.com, do the official sign up, and you'll get the VIP option. And yeah, it's been awesome. Appreciate you. Have yourself a beautiful, wonderful day. Yes, yes. And we'll see you tomorrow.